our champion, Toastmaster Mohamed Saddiq, to share with us his journey on becoming a champion. Mohamed.
Yeah!
When we begin our Toastmasters journey, we come here and sit down, and then we start accepting what others tell us to do, right? How to speak, how to evaluate, how to present, how to come up here, how to deliver your speeches, how you should come up with a speech for your manual, in what form and in what way. When I began my Toastmasters journey many years ago, that was exactly what I did. I sat down at a meeting just like this. It started at Temasek Polytechnic Toastmasters Club. That was 8 years ago, coming to 9 years this coming March next year. Now, when I was a member back then, the demographics of Toastmasters had less of younger Toastmasters, meaning below 30, and more of those above 40 years old. It was a very intimidating experience because you never know who's judging you. Thank you so much for coming up with that topic earlier on. When I gave my first speech, I had with me a piece of paper, and I was invited to come up to the front to deliver Project 1, the icebreaker. Back then it was called the Competent Toastmaster Manual. I never completed that project because I was so afraid of public speaking that I dropped my piece of paper and went back to my seat. But someone came up to me at the end of that meeting and said, she put a hand on my shoulder and told me, Saddiq, don't worry, because in Toastmasters, there are no failures. You can only learn from your mistakes, but don't ever repeat it again. And that was a piece of advice that I've taken for the past 8 years. When I became a Toastmaster, taking part in a speech competition was never part of my goals as a Toastmaster. In fact, when I was in primary school, in secondary school, and even in polytechnic, I was a short and shy person. I joined the Toastmasters purely out of mistake. You see, I studied food science and nutrition, and there was a poster that said, Toastmasters, come here to deliver the best toast of your life. I mistakenly thought it was a baking club, and so I joined. But after joining Toastmasters, I realized something, that it is possible for all persons, regardless of age, language, religion, or whether you have experience in public speaking, to become better speakers. And that was how I began my journey. When I began Toastmasters, I didn't take part in speech competitions until my 3rd year in Toastmasters. I lost out. I wasn't even placed. And because of that experience back in 2008, I decided, instead of speaking, I should go into club leadership. Area leadership, become a club president, area governor, and perhaps something higher. And so I did. It was only last year, after I was stripped of all my positions, that I thought maybe I should take part in a speech contest. And it has been an interesting journey. Because while many of you seated over here may be guests, maybe young Toastmasters, new Toastmasters, or even senior Toastmasters, you may have not taken part in a speech competition. And I was invited here by our club VPE to talk about my experiences as a contestant. Now, I wouldn't want to talk about how I went through it, but I'll just talk about the 3 things that I've learned as a contestant. Number 1, always question the fundamentals of your assumptions. You see, many times we judge a person by how he or she speaks, by the content of their presentation. When I took part in the speech contest or speech evaluations contest 2 months ago in this very club, I thought I was the best evaluator because I had certain techniques that allowed me to amass more than 500 best evaluator ribbons over the past 2 years. I thought those techniques would give me an edge in the speech contest. But let me tell you something. Sometimes knowing something is different from actually doing it. At the speech contest, I was totally flawed when I lost out to another Toastmaster. He's here today, Toastmaster Lin Han. It was only because Neil made the mistake of joining another area contest that he was disqualified in the area B2 contest. And so I took part in the contest and I learned from his experiences. At that club contest, someone came up to me and said, Saddiq, you are a good evaluator, but good is not enough. You must do more. He told me, look at the content of your presentation. Was it effectively brought out? Do you talk about the speaker? Do you talk about how she or he delivered that presentation? Or were you imprisoned in your own assumptions as to what a good speaker should be? Now this person pulled me aside, meetings after meetings, not only at this club, but at other clubs. And every time we have such feedback sessions, I would come out feeling absolutely horrified. Because this person kept pointing out areas which I should improve on. Sometimes as a club member, this is what you should do. Now this person is actually someone who's stirring his coffee right behind there, Stephen Chun. Let's give him a round of applause.
Still doing coffee.
Let's give him a round of applause. Now, not only Stephen came up to me, but there were many other club members. Which brought me to the second point, learn from the better speakers. You see, when we talk about good, better and best, we think that a good speaker should have a certain technique, perhaps using body language, vocal variety, maybe a myriad of words to jog to interest our minds. Now that's true, but sometimes in a contest, it may not be true. Because a good contestant is someone who can adapt and adopt to the situation. Now this is where someone came in, a club member also. She came up to me and then said, Saddiq, have you realized that you had a tendency to talk very fast? Now for the past 8 years in Toastmasters, I never thought that this was a tendency that I had. I always thought I spoke in a paced manner. Now it's good, because sometimes when someone comes up to you to give feedback or to evaluate, it can be ruthless, it can be highly impersonal, but yet that is the advice that you need. Now this person then continued. She's a very straightforward person, no nonsense, and she said, Saddiq, if you don't speak slower, you will definitely lose the contest. This was before the division contest. And she said, you must learn to speak slower. You must learn to pace the stage properly. You must learn from other contestants. Look at how they behave up there on stage. This person also managed, 1 week before the contest, at the district level, to give me a set of makeup powder. Mary Soon. Thank you, Mary, for the makeup.
Great love parade.
Exactly. You know, Mary, I was putting on the makeup just before the contest, and my mom came to the room and then said, Saddiq, are you gay? But of course, it is not only enough for you to question the assumptions that you have, but also to learn from the contestants. And this is where the final person that I like to talk about, because he truly made me fearful just 1 week before the contest. You see, I came prepared to the contest at the district level with my area trophy, area B2, and then I came prepared for the division, with the division D trophy. I thought by having these lucky things with me, I could surely make it at the contest. But just 1 week before that, we had a training session at LengKee Advanced at the meeting room just behind there. And there was this one speaker who gave me a run for my money. Because to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a judgmental person. I tend to look at a person, evaluate the way he speaks and behaves, and then form an immediate judgment as to his caliber as a speaker. Now this person showed me how wrong I was. Because at the training session, he exemplified what a true contestant should be. Compassionate, passionate, enthusiastic, and most importantly, he had a sense of empathy for the speaker that he was evaluating. At that training session, all the club members who were there said this: Speaker X, you will win the contest. Top 3. Saddiq, I am so sorry, but just take part in the competition. It was that one week that gave me the most fear, because it allowed me the chance and opportunity to question whether I was right this past 8 years. It allowed me to look into the techniques which I tried and perhaps failed to deliver on. And it allowed me to think back, to fully banish away all thoughts that I had about the speech contest, and then reconstruct everything so that I could come out as a better speaker. This person is not here today, but I just like you to clap because this is a friend of mine, Tan Kwan Hong. To all those of you who would like to take part in a speech competition, don't be afraid, because in a speech competition, it does not distinguish nor discriminate whether you are a new Toastmaster, a senior one, a highly accredited distinguished Toastmaster, or even a Project 1 speaker. 8 years ago, when I took part in Toastmasters, I made a mistake by thinking it was a baking club. Today, my dear friends, I've gotten the 2nd place. If I can do it, my dear friends, despite being a stutterer when I was in primary school, secondary school, and in polytechnic, it shows one thing. If you are a Toastmaster and you think that a chapter meeting is an obstacle, a challenge, you are wrong. Because the challenge is not really in the meeting or in the speeches, but in overcoming what you truly think you should do as a speaker. Toastmaster.
Wow, that was a great sharing. Sharing from a champion evaluator. So now we're going to put the evaluators to the test. We are now coming to the speech evaluation of the night. Each of the speech evaluator is given 2 to 3 minutes. And the timing sequence for all the evaluators are at the end of the 2nd minute, the green light will be turned on. At the end of the 2.5 minutes, the yellow light. And then at the end of the 3rd minute, the red light will be turned on, and the evaluators has 30 seconds to wrap up before the bell rings. May I now call upon our very first evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster Kelvin Sam, to give his evaluation on the speech by Ho-Sin. Toastmaster Kelvin.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, especially to you, Ko-Seng. I will evaluate your speech in 2 segments. Things I like about it and some rooms of improvement for yourself. First of all, I like the way you start off your speech. I like the way you use the props, especially the whiteboard. This is something not every one of us are very comfortable with right at the start. That's good for it. I like the way on your subject, your knowledge on the subject of Greece. It seems that you know a lot about it. That's good. And last but not least, you possess a loud and resonating voice, which is very good. Continue to use it, as that is one of, I think, the strong points that you have. When it comes to rooms of improvement, first of all, your opening is rather weak. When you ask, good evening everyone, are you a risk taker? Well, what sort of question is that? You might want a show of hands. Can I have a show of hands, please? How many of you hate to take risks? Then everyone who hate to take risks will raise up their hands. This is to engage audience participation. Then as you move on to your body of a message, you have so much of information to start drawing and explaining at the same time. As you speak and talk, it is rather difficult to follow because your audience are looking at what you're drawing. And at the same time, you're speaking you're talking over to the board. It would be rather that you use PowerPoint slides and present your point over. It's easier for everyone to follow because at times you are blocking certain people's way. People are doing this. So don't block. Use PowerPoint slides. Project the points that you want to follow. Focus on 3. Just 3 points. 3 main points, 3 sub points, another 3 sub points. It's easier for us to follow. I got lost your message along the way because I was like, wow, there is so much of information. Okay? Try to insert more pauses. Breathe. You are speaking so fast. Wow. By the time I thought you are coming to your conclusion, you actually ended your speech. You have no conclusion at the very end part. You might want to insert conclusion, like for example, after sharing with all of you, how can you better manage your risk? I'm sure everyone will know how can you better manage risk after what I've shared with you. This is a better conclusion, or you can re-conclude on the points that you have talked about earlier on. This is to help the audience to better recall of what you said earlier, okay, rather than throw one chunk. Just remember, have a better opening. Okay, create an opening and it allows everyone participation. Second, focus on power of 3. This is just 3 points. Okay, and last, have a conclusion that summarizes all the points. Okay, I wish you all the best in your coming speeches. Back to you, Toastmasters of the Day.